And here we are. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jenny. Welcome, everyone, to today's Renny show. Lovely to see you, Jenny.
Lovely to see you, as always, Rich. It's fabulous to be here. How are you?
I'm really not too bad, thank you. Really not too bad. Having a good week so far, even though the weather has taken a bit of a dip for the worse.
It's
But
jumper. It's jumper time, isn't it?
It really is.
Finally,
it really is.
I have finally given in and got out my jumpers.
Yes. Likewise. Yeah. Nice cuddly jumper right now. So we're in the interests of full transparency. We are pre-recording today's show because of work commitments, but we will still broadcast at 12:30 on our usual day, which is the 18th of October. So if you're listening to us today on the 18th, or even any time later than that, then do get involved in the conversation in the comments. We'd love to carry it on with you. So today then, because we've started doing themed weeks, haven't we, Jenny? And this week is not a themed week, so it will be completely random. Could be absolutely anything. So I will get on with the first question. So, Jenny, have you turned your heating on yet?
Well, no, not exactly. I'm trying to eke it out as far as for as long as possible. However, I don't like being cold. I am of the generation who didn't have central heating when they were children. When I was very little, we didn't have central heat. Well, we had central heating downstairs, but not upstairs. So okay. I am of the generation of wearing jumpers inside is not an unusual thing. Keeping, and I did my top tip for the heat is if your feet are warm, then the rest of you is. If your feet are cold, then no, even if you put more things on top, you stay cold. So my tip is keep your feet warm.
That's a great one, actually. I have to admit, the slippers have come out again this week for just that reason. So, yeah, and I will admit, we did actually turn our heating on for the first time at the weekend because we were a bit cold. However, when I'm working from home, I don't tend to have the heating on through the day. I will just layer up in jumpers, and I have some nice, fingerless gloves that help keep my wrist warmers is probably a better description for them, because that then helps to keep the hands warm so that you can still, tap away on the keyboard and do all those good things. So yeah, I'm with you.
I have been known to put a blanket over my knees.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Likewise. Needs must.
I was away at the weekend, so I was in Madrid at the weekend where it was still nice and warm. So it was a bit of a shock to come back to Monday night landing at Heathrow when it was a bit chilly. Yeah. So yes. So
sounds wonderful. My parents are in Malta at the moment, so experiencing equally lovely temperatures. So yeah, not jealous at all.
Or is it my?
Yes. So your turn. Your turn.
Well, the thing I love about one of the many things I love about the Renny Show is the randomness of questions. So my question is, how do you deal with a disappointment?
Ooh, how do you deal with a disappointment? Okay, I'm just typing that on so I can get it on the screen. Bear with me. How do you deal with a disappointment? Interesting question. I guess it depends what the disappointment is, but I do think, I'm not afraid.
A big disappointment.
Big disappointment. I mean, I'll be honest. If it's a big disappointment, I will have a pity party. If it's something I've been looking forward to, or something I've been, putting effort into, or all the different reasons we look forward to things that a cancellation would mean it's a disappointment. I'm realistic enough that it's okay to have a 5-minute pity party about it, that's okay. You're allowed to be upset, but I think it's how you choose to then pick yourself up afterwards. I think that's the key. We don't want to have a pity party that goes on for too long. If it goes on, till the next day or for days, weeks, that's definitely not good, definitely not healthy. And for me, what I have found, I can hand on heart say that since I started doing regular gratitudes, when things like that happen, it's easier to not stay down quite as long. And I think that's the key. It's, you can be upset, that's fine. We're human. We should allow ourselves to feel all these different types of emotions, but it's how we then choose to pick ourselves back up, which I think is the key, and not taking too long to do that, I think.
And those gratitudes, I do gratitudes as well. Yeah. Does it count to have another question? So do you have a particular time of day that you do your gratitudes?
In the morning. Lovely. First thing.
Just checking. Yeah. So again, a really helpful tip, isn't it? Because we can't sometimes disappointments just, it's just the way of the world. And it can be really tough to take them on the chin. So yeah.
Okay, so my next question, another quite random one, unconnected. Do you ever pay compliments to strangers?
Yes, all the time.
Fantastic.
I do. And the reason I do is partly because I think it's a nice thing to do. And also I don't do it for the sake of it. It's not a kind of random. No. But if I see somebody who's I don't know, looking fabulous, or got a fabulous smile, or got an interesting bag, or reading an interesting book on the train, or something like that, then it's a nice way to start up a conversation, isn't it? And I think most of the time people really respond really well. They get, oh I love this too, and there's I think there's something really special about somebody who has no agenda, who doesn't know you, has no, so if you ask your partner or your whoever, your significant other, does my bum look big in this, or whatever, how do you think? There is a slight agenda, isn't there, in terms of they, even if they say there isn't, and they'll be completely honest with you, there is a slight agenda. Whereas this random stranger saying, can I just say how fabulous, and when I've been on the receiving end of that, it's lovely, makes your day.
Isn't it just? And I think you don't know what kind of day someone is having, and that random compliment that you deliver could really, really make their day. It could make the difference between a truly horrendous day and a day that was just slightly more bearable, because it's something that makes someone smile. So I just think, you don't know the difference that you might make to someone by passing on that compliment. And like you've said, I very much agree. It's not about empty compliments just for the sake of it. It's about genuine compliments that come to mind, and having the confidence to voice them, because I think it's not something I would have done a number of years ago, whereas now I make a point of doing it. So I do think there's a confidence thing that comes with it as well. But yeah, I think it can make a really special difference to people, which then in turn makes you feel good as well. So it's win-win.
And it's kind of in the way of paying it forward, isn't it? Because there's that thing about actually, if by paying a compliment you make somebody else feel great, then actually that might give them the confidence to be able to do that to somebody else. So it can have a kind of domino effect in a good way.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Yeah, fantastic. Okay.
So
It's your
if
turn.
you've never done it,
Oh, yeah.
listeners, have a go and see how it works for you.
Yeah, just see how it feels. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And let us know. Let us know how you get on.
So my second question is it? Yes, my second question
Yes.
is, what are your or what is? You can have singular or plural for this. What are or what is your favourite thing about autumn?
Ooh, okay. Oh, I can't type properly. I'm trying to type it in quickly so I can get it up on the screen and stuff that one up
And
really.
I'm making an assumption there that you have a favourite thing about autumn, but because we just recently talked about gratitudes, I suspect
Yes.
that isn't a loaded question.
No.
It's a fairly safe assumption.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Gosh, the first thing that comes to mind would have to be autumn leaves, which might seem the most obvious answer, but I just think I will never forget going to Lady Bower Reservoir in the Peak District a number of years ago with my mum and stepdad, and just the colours of the leaves around the reservoir. I don't think I felt at the time I'd never seen anything so beautiful, because there were just so many different colours, different shapes, and I think, you know, this is long before I truly appreciated, you know, gratitude and mindfulness and the difference that can make. So I just think, you know, if I went back and, you know, if I saw the same thing again now, I'd probably just want to stay there for ages, just soaking it all in. I just think the colours are wonderful. You know, I do like bright colours, but there's something lovely about, you know, the autumn leaves really do signify that change in season, and it's just a nice feeling. It makes me think of Harvest Festival and, you know, all the autumn leaves, and yeah, it's a lovely thing, definitely. What about you?
Well, I think I don't know if I've said it on this show before, but I've certainly said it in post before. I have to be dragged kicking and screaming into autumn. So again, I use that that I'm always looking for silver linings in autumn, because it is tricky for me.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that I love most is there's a kind of autumn smell, isn't there? It's that kind of ever so slightly smoky bonfires, not the kind of barbecue of summer, which is my preference,
there's a difference,
but
isn't
that
there?
kind of smoky bonfire night kind of people using, you know, fires to keep warm. That kind of autumn. There's a definite sort of autumn smell, isn't there? And that's the thing that I kind of think, oh, actually, there is something quite special about that. Once I've put my flip-flops away finally, and I've admitted defeat and gone, okay, this is it. I fight it every year and I never win. So I just need to put my flip-flops away, you know, and admit that it's boot and slipper weather. But that smell, that love, that kind of is very exciting.
It's really evocative, isn't it, of the season? Definitely. I have to say, I went out to B&Q on Sunday to get paint, because I've been doing some painting at home, and I went out in shorts and flip-flops. Despite the cold weather and the fact we'd put the heating on at home, I went out in shorts and flip-flops. So yes, I think I may be this year in particular being dragged kicking and screaming, I think, into autumn. But yes. It is a nice season, but it's just a shame.
Cox's apples is the other thing, because they're particularly autumny, aren't they? Cox's apples. Yeah. So I do like that kind of mellow fruitfulness is the word I have to kind of hang on to as a positive thing to entice me into autumn.
Yes.
And soup. I quite like soup.
Oh yes, I've been having some lovely homemade soup the last couple of weeks, and I've got a load, you know, butternut squash and parsnips and Swede, all in the cupboard, ready to make some more. I do like soup.
Well, I tried it, butternut squash with sage.
Oh, okay. Might have to give that a go.
Fabulous. Really, really lovely with sage. It's very nice, very nice flavour.
Oh, fabulous. So if you've got any recipes, folks, for nice root vegetable soup,
recipes. Yes,
share them.
bring them. Share them with us.
Fantastic. Right. Okay. So my final question, a slightly more serious one. Here we go. As it comes up on the screen, there we go. How important is listening?
I think it is one of the most importantest thing. The most importantest, so even more important than the most important thing is listening. I think there are a couple of things about listening. Well, actually, we could probably do a whole show on listening.
We probably could.
But I think key things are that listening, we all assume that because we've got ears, we can do it. Yeah. We're not as good at it naturally as we think we are.
Yeah.
And there are different types of listening. So quite often we listen to respond.
Yes.
Rather than listen to understand. So what we're actually doing, although we think we're listening, we're actually waiting. We're listening for a gap so that we can get what we want to say in.
Yeah.
First, quick, at the earliest opportunity. And I'm sure we've all been guilty of that.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
So I think I feel like that listening should get bigger and bigger and bigger, that word listen, and take over the whole screen. Because it is so powerful. And I think in any human relationship, whatever that is, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, whatever it is, as human beings, we all want to be heard, don't we?
Absolutely. And the power of helping someone to be heard is huge, isn't it?
Absolutely. And yes, we want to be heard, but also I think once the next stage, being heard is one thing, being understood is the next level. So giving people, the person who you were in conversation with, that both of your ears.
Absolutely.
And you can listen with, I would say, if you're doing really good listening, you're listening with more than your ears, aren't you? You're listening with all of you. So you're listening for not just what they're saying, but how they're saying it, what they're not saying.
Absolutely.
Their body language, all of it. So you listen with your whole self, not just your ears.
Yes, definitely. And that's something I wasn't really that aware of until I did my coaching diploma. And I can remember that's one of the things that's always really stuck out for me, the different types of listening. And like you said about listening to respond or to get your bit in, because, I've got something relevant to say here. Let me add my bit. No, sometimes, obviously very relevant to coaching, giving people the space to say what they need to without necessarily responding. But even, I'm sure you're the same in just normal life conversations. I do find it crops up. I'm listening to someone and thinking, okay, do I actually come in here, or do I just park that for a minute and just really listen to them instead? And like the power of that, like as I've kind of said already, it's just huge, isn't it?
And sometimes I think when we're in those helping roles, obviously my original training was as a nurse, and we were trained to listen, but we were also trained to give advice. So that thing, so there's a bit of a kind of potentially a bit of a a clash, because actually you want to give advice. Well, actually what I've learned as a coach, of course, is that advice is something that people are better asking for, because they might not want your advice, And actually what they might want is the space to kind of process. Sometimes they don't want a solution, they want the space to process out loud. So they
Absolutely.
don't need us other than to listen. That listening is so powerful. And sometimes what we want when we think we're helping, because we then say, well, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, or if
And
I
you
were
think
you,
it's
I would.
it's a good thing.
And we think we're
Nice.
helping because that's and actually maybe a good question is when they've finished is to ask them what they need.
Yeah.
Because actually they might say, do you know, just getting that off my chest and having you listen to me has made a real difference, and I am much clearer in my head. I've kind of worked through some things, and it sounded different when I said it out loud than it did when I said it in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing the difference that can make, can't it? To be saying something out loud rather than just have the thoughts whirring around in your head. You know, I'll another thing I'll never forget from when I did my coaching diploma is the first time the light bulb went on about truly listening and parking my own stuff, just leaving it to one side and just walking the journey with the coachee, with the client. And it was a really profound experience, not least because there was lots of emotion involved in that particular session, but it was quite profound for me because it was a huge step forward in my training as a coach and realizing, oh, actually, I can do this. You know, it was huge, fantastic.
And it takes practice, doesn't it? It's like anything.
Yes, it does.
The skill, people who are good at it, as ever, people who are good at anything, really, isn't it? They make it look easy. So behind that really easy bit is the hundreds of hours of practice, getting it wrong, you know, not doing it, you know, making a mess of it, all of those things, failing dismally, thinking, oh damn, I should have, oh no, too late, I've gone in there. So but you don't see that journey when people are really good at what they do. You don't see the, you know, it's like musicians, you don't see the hours of practice when the Royal Philharmonic are playing, do you? You see it, you know, they make it look like it's, you think, oh, I could do that, I could do that. Sure, I could do that. How hard could it be? Oh, it's hard. It's a skill. It takes practice and honing, and the more we do it, the better we get at it.
Yeah, definitely. Fabulous. Love it. Okay, was that my quick? No, that was my last question, wasn't it? So it's your turn.
I was so busy listening, I've forgotten it was my turn. So I've got a question about I think it is kind of topical about sleep.
Ooh, interesting.
Because obviously as it was coming into autumn and I was thinking about hibernation.
Yes.
Because I think in a previous life I was a bear. So my question is around sleeping, and you know, do your sleeping clocks, you know, your sleep timings, do they change with the seasons, or are you the same all the year round?
Interesting. Okay.
So what about your sleep? I suppose it's about the question is how, you know, are your sleep cycles consistent, or do they change with the seasons like bears?
I think there's something in this. I think it does change. I can remember speaking to a medical herbalist a couple of years ago about, you know, she was talking about weight loss in winter and how it's really the wrong time to do it because our bodies are naturally wanting to, you know, pack a bit of extra weight on. You know, if we take it back to caveman times for survival through the rougher months, which is very much, you know, whilst we don't hibernate in the true sense of the word as human beings, there are lots of echoes in our winter behavior with that of, you know, the bear that might hibernate. So for me, I think I've noticed wanting to go to bed a bit earlier. I think when it's summer and it's light, you want to stay up. It's nice and light and it's fresh and it's lovely. I think when it's dark and it's cold, yeah, the temptation is to go to bed perhaps a bit earlier. And I think I almost want to stay asleep longer in the morning as well, because it's dark when you then wake up, which is, I guess the most, or the thought that comes to mind for me, the most natural way to wake up is with daylight.
Yeah.
And of course, when we're waking up in winter, usually with the alarm clock, or autumn or winter, it's not it's not necessarily daylight, is it? It's still pitch black, which just makes you want to hunker down a bit more, I think.
No, I'm with you, and it'd be interesting what people. I'd love to know,
Yes,
dear listeners,
yeah.
what you think. I definitely have a. So I think the official word is kind of sleep hygiene, which is a routine, a bedtime routine. So I do, on the whole, I like to be in bed by 10, but you're absolutely right. When it gets suddenly at this time of year, when it suddenly starts to get dark at sort of 6 o'clock-ish, I always think if it's dark, it's bedtime. so I have to remind myself, it's like, it's not bedtime quite yet. And as you say, in the morning, I find I'm a morning person, so I like to start the day. I'm not a huge fan of lie-ins. I always feel I'm wasting a day. But that thing about if it's still dark, it still feels like nighttime, so it's much harder. In the summer, I can get up at 5:30. If it's daylight, I'm up. It's like, I can do that. It feels like morning. So I think that's why I think I was a bear in a past life. The thought of going to sleep and waking up thin in March actually is quite appealing.
Sounds all right, doesn't it?
Do you know, I could just think, yes, find a cave, snuggle down, wake me up in March. Feels the only thing I would miss Christmas, because I do quite like that. I like Advent, that December bit. But most of January, February, I'd be quite happy to skip that and wake up in March.
Yeah. Well, let me know how you get on with that.
Yeah, I don't think it's never worked yet. I haven't ever found, but I can live in hope, can't I?
Yes, absolutely. You never know.
You just never know.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's been some really interesting questions, another fascinating conversation. So as we've said throughout, if you've got comment, we'd love you to carry on the conversation, folks. If you've watched and you've got some thoughts on the things we've talked about, please do carry on the conversation in the comments. We'd absolutely love to know what you're thinking. But in the meantime, that's it for today. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time, where I believe, I'm just going to consult the oracle, but I believe our theme is perfection. Have a look. Yes,
perfection.
The theme for next time is perfection. So if anyone has any questions they'd like to put forward around the theme of perfection, do get in touch with us. Let us know. And then tune in on what will be the 1st of November. Goodness me, we're sailing through the end of the year, aren't we? What's going on?
Yes.
But we shall look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks' time. We hope you enjoyed the show, and take good care of yourselves and keep warm. And as Jenny said, keep your slippers on, keep your feet warm.
Yeah. That doesn't sound very raunchy, does it? Young and trendy, but sometimes practical tips are the thing.
Yes, practical. Nothing wrong with being practical.
Practical and positive. Yeah. There's nothing worse than being cold. We don't want anybody to be cold. We want to be warm and on it. So
absolutely.
Yes, stay safe, stay warm, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic. Take care, folks. Bye.
Bye. I love the fact that we wave at the end of this.